Hello, YouTubers, friends, compatriots, bootlicker shills, death sirs. I'm Useful Idiot. Welcome. And I've done a number of videos about Gaza, and of course, one of them is the idea that the official number of Palestinians killed in Gaza is around 70,000 now. But we know that those figures are inaccurate, and we don't necessarily know how inaccurate they are. But I've seen a number of studies that propose that the number of Palestinians killed is actually somewhere between 300,000 and 500,000. And I tend to believe that with all the ordnance that's been dropped on Gaza. And there's actually another person that came out recently and said that they think the figures are completely distorted. And as I mentioned, the amount of ordnance, the amount of destruction, the amount of firepower being brought on Gaza. I think there's one study that said that the level of weaponry and firepower that's been dropped on Gaza is right up there with World War II. And it is astounding the kind of using bunker buster bombs in a very densely populated uh, uh, place like Gaza. It's only 2 miles or something like that. At some points, and that's a lot of concentration. And so to use that kind of firepower, there's going to be a lot of collateral damage. But the thing I want to talk about now is the reconstruction of Gaza. So we already have Larry Fink and BlackRock, of course, who are working for contracts to reconstruct Ukraine, and now they're getting involved in possibly the reconstruction of Gaza. And we also have a number of Muslim countries that are being courted to put in money for reconstruction as well. And then Trump, of course, has talked about investing as well, although certainly there'll be a trade-off if the U.S. gets involved in reconstruction. But more importantly, I want to get into these numbers because they're astounding. 68 million tons of rubble. 81% of all buildings have been destroyed, and 123,000 buildings in total, 75,000 damaged, and all the homes been destroyed, agriculture's been destroyed, mosques have been destroyed, hospitals have been destroyed, universities have been destroyed, desalination plants have been destroyed. And so it's easy to realize that 68 million tons of rubble, uh, an astounding number, is very likely the number. And I guess Israelis have already started some efforts to remove rubble, certainly in the areas that they control. And of course, they're going to continue to control it, and they want to get it cleared and start redeveloping it as part of Israel as soon as possible. It would be my guess. But they talk about the fact that there's 68 million tons of debris, and not only that, it's full of unexploded ordnance. It's very toxic, and there's probably 10 or 20,000 bodies buried under the rubble. So this debris, this 68 million tons, is just a toxic brew, and just gets worse all the time. Of course, the water's polluted there as well now, and then the kind of ordnance that's been used is another layer of toxicity to this debris. And they're talking about 10 years to move out all this debris. And I think that's a pretty fair number. Potentially, a lot of this debris could be moved sooner, and particularly in all the areas that Israel is clearing and wants to redevelop as soon as possible, could be cleared in a few years. And then, depending on who gets involved and how much money gets injected, a lot of that debris could be moved sooner than 10 years. But when you look at that number, 68 million tons, a decade to clear it is definitely realistic. And so this just adds another amazing, astonishing layer of the diabolical, and just how horrifying the situation is in Gaza. And the fact that this entire state has been completely obliterated and razed to the ground is one of the great human tragedies of our time and any time. And the fact that the world has basically been allowing this to go on, even though 99% of the world has cried out about genocide and war crimes and what an atrocity it is and we're finally kind of seeing a backlash. The fact that it's been allowed at all shows that also that the UN is completely ineffective, and the fact that this has gone on is a tragedy for all time. I'm a useful idiot, don't you be one too?